This is dedicated to the homies that was down since day one. Welcome to Drop D.
What's up, everybody, and welcome to the show. This is Quick Hits, a JFK News and Notes podcast. I'm 50% of your hosting duties, Rob Clark from the Lone Gunman podcast, and with me, as always, the lovely and talented Mr. Doug Campbell.
Happy New Year, Mr. Rob.
Hey, Happy New Year.
Happy New
Welcome
Year,
to
buddy.
2022.
2022, man. Here we go. The first show of 2022.
Yes, the year of the mule.
Is that what it is?
I
Really?
have no fucking idea.
Me.
It just sounded good.
It sounded good. Well, you know what? We'll make it around here. It is around 2022 is the Quick Hits official year of the mule. And you know what we should do? We should on the way home today, man, play some Government Mule.
There you go.
That's a great
I'm down
band.
for that.
Yeah. You dig
is.
Government Mule?
I do.
I'm a big fan, man. That first record, the self-titled record that started out with Grinning in Your Face, is an absolute, what was it, 94, 95? Dude, one of the top 10 guitar records of that year. Just an amazing record. Warren Haynes, the late Alan Woody, and I don't know the drummer's name. Couldn't tell you. But guys, hey, everybody, Happy New Year to you too, dear listeners. As Rob said, this is Quick Hits, a JFK Assassination News and Notes podcast. We have much to discuss. Mr. Rob, why don't you get us started, buddy?
All right. First up on the agenda for today, this new year of our Lord 2022. I did a little digging in the Weisberg archives, and something that I didn't know and probably should have known, and especially from reading A.J. Weberman's book, The Oswald Code, which examined his address book extensively. And maybe I knew it, but it didn't really register at the time. But I find it interesting that the name Warren DeBrueys appears in Oswald's address book. Did you know that, Doug?
I think I did. I did. Oh, man, there's so much information that we have to absorb, and have to keep track of. I think, and this is the, that book, man. I'm ashamed to say I haven't read it. I'm ashamed.
Now
you would think with the area I kind of focus on lately that I would have read it. I need to get off my ass and read that book, don't I?
Yeah, you definitely should get it. I mean, there's some interesting stuff in there for sure. And one name that is in his book and that should be there is of course, Hostie's name, because he was kind of accosting a marina in Dallas. But DeBrueys' name, Warren DeBrueys' name, shouldn't really be in Oswald's address book because, quite frankly, DeBrueys was an agent in FBI and allegedly had no contact with Oswald before the assassination.
Well, now we've got Orestes Pena that makes it clear. Doesn't he make it clear that he saw Warren DeBrueys and Oswald together more than once?
Well, funny you should bring that name up, Doug.
Yeah, because I remember doing a show, an episode of the Dallas Action where I talked about this immigration and naturalization, like a border patrol agent, like an immigration agent, and him discussing, and he was talking about the fact that there ought to be a lot of records on Ferry and Oswald surveillance because they helped out, they augmented the FBI in keeping track of Cuban exiles. And even he talked about it, that he saw him meeting, DeBrueys meeting with, he wasn't customs, he was like border patrol. It was like different back then. Even he talked about seeing them together. But yeah, Orestes Pena for sure. Did we lose Rob?
Yeah, I'm here. In the official version, he shouldn't have had any contact with Warren DeBrueys, though.
Oh, no. So absolutely not.
I found an excerpt from an interview that Dan Rather did with Orestes Pena. Okay? Yeah, the Dan Rather. And this is from something that was, I believe, was on television in the 60s. I'm not really sure when it was on television.
I think I know what you're
Maybe.
talking about. It was in the late 70s, I think, and there's a little snippet, if I'm not mistaken, there's a little snippet of an interview with DeBrueys himself in that thing. And that was like, I remember that being the first time I'd ever seen him. And he comes off as a real dick.
Yeah, well, I've got excerpts from both.
Awesome.
Dan Rather talks to Orestes Pena and Warren DeBrueys.
Dude, awesome.
It's from The American Assassins, Part 2, which may be in the vault. I don't know. It quite possibly may be. You might be able to actually hear this for yourself, but it's been a long time. But Dan Rather, he asks, but Oswald seems to have had other links besides the Fair Play for Cuba Committee, and whose New Orleans chairman and sole member then was the owner of the Havana bar, Orestes Pena, told Bruce Hall that he has a different version of Oswald than the one Ed Butler retains. So he asked him, did any of the people you saw having a meeting with Lee Harvey Oswald were any of these FBI agents? Pena says, yes, Warren C. DeBrueys. Warren C. DeBrueys is an FBI agent, and you saw him with Lee Harvey Oswald. Pena says, yes, I knew Warren DeBrueys very well because I used to work for him. What did you do for Warren DeBrueys? Well, I was an informer for the FBI about the people in New Orleans. What happened when the FBI agent whom you said you had seen with Lee Harvey Oswald was also the man you were the informant for? What happened when he came to the bar before you went to the Warren Commission? Pena says, about 10 days before I went to testify for the Warren Commission, he came and he called me from behind the bar and he said he wanted to talk to me. He called me to the table and told me he was very, very nasty and told me, if you ever talk anything about me, I will get rid of your ass, yours and Oswald's.
That is totally believable, given what I know about that guy, you know?
Yeah. So Rather tells him, that DeBrueys is now the special agent in charge of the FBI office in San Juan, Puerto Rico. He talked to Bruce Hull. Did you know Orestes Pena, who was the operator of the Havana bar in New Orleans, and what was your relationship with him? DeBrueys says, he was an individual that I recall having contacted perhaps as many as a dozen times, I suppose, during the early 60s prior to the assassination of President Kennedy. And he tells DeBrueys, well, Orestes Pena says that he was, in a literal sense, an informer for the FBI. He knew you well because you were his contact man with the FBI, and that on numerous occasions, he saw you and Lee Harvey Oswald together in a particular Greek restaurant in New Orleans in the French Quarter. What is your response to that? DeBrueys says, my response to that is he is wrong in his statements. I've never seen Lee Harvey Oswald at any time in my life personally, nor have I talked to him by telephone, knowingly. I have had absolutely no contact, no personal knowledge, first-hand contact with Lee Harvey Oswald, nor do I have any secondary contact with him. Was Lee Harvey Oswald an informant of the FBI? He asked DeBrueys. DeBrueys has an interesting answer here, Doug. He says, he was not my informant, and I have no information whatsoever that he had ever been an informant for the FBI. He was asked, did you ever use the phrase to get your ass or threaten Orestes Pena in any way in connection with his Warren Commission testimony? DeBrueys says, well, I certainly don't recall making that statement to Orestes Pena. My recollection is that I treated him with a great deal of patience and respect. There would have been no reason whatsoever for me to make such a statement. Now, Dan Rather says, William Walters was an FBI security code clerk in the New Orleans office of the FBI from 61 to 66. And he told me about Oswald and the FBI. Do you think Oswald was, by your definition and the Bureau's definition, an informant? William Walters. Yes, I am sure he was. Now, this is an interview with William Walters and Dan Rather. It jumped to this after DeBrueys.
Okay.
And he says, and you were certain that on the basis of what you did in the normal course of your duties that Oswald's name was on the New Orleans FBI office security index file. Walters says, I am positive. And then they cut back to DeBrueys, who say, I would say that is a falsehood. Had he been an informant, and had I had him as the subject of my investigation, it would have been logical that I would have been aware of that fact because of cross-references in the file and for many other reasons. And I say that is a falsehood. And then he says, well, Mr. Walters says that Oswald's name was, in fact, on the security index file. And then he asked him, could Oswald's name have been on the index file? And what was this security index file? DeBrueys says, I have no idea at this time whether his name was on any type of special index. And as relates to what you term a security index file, I would rather not get into this discussion of administrative techniques employed within the office and respectfully decline to answer your question.
Well. Uh-huh.
Yeah. Now, William Walters, an interesting guy. Of course, he was basically a file clerk in the New Orleans FBI office.
Right.
You know, from 61 to 66 in the most interesting time in the New Orleans FBI office, for sure.
Oh, yeah.
And he states that there definitely was an Oswald file in there and that it came up missing shortly after the assassination out of a safe.
Yeah, that is totally believable as well.
Right. So I thought that was interesting.
A lot of shit came up missing.
Well, yeah.
Starting in the evening of the 22nd. You know, photographs from Mexico City.
Why would Orestes Pena have a reason to lie about Oswald meeting with DeBrueys? And why would William Walter, an FBI employee, be lying? That's
why would Orestes Pena stick his neck out like that? That guy, right. What could his motivation possibly be? Other than
he doesn't have one.
No, other than Warren DeBrueys was talking to Lee Oswald during the summer of '69.
Right, and that's the reason that
summer of '69. What do I got? Bryan Adams on the brain. Summer of '63. Can you guys tell I've been listening to the local classic rock station this week on my commute? How embarrassing, Rob. I'm so sorry about that.
That's okay.
Because my gaffes reflect on you, of course, as well, because we're co-hosts, and that one was just bad. I apologize, buddy. Please continue.
Who doesn't like a little Bryan Adams, every now and then?
That's right. Good
like
cruising music.
Ballad.
Yeah.
You can make some good love to him. It's very good. All right. The last thing I got here.
Too much information, but go ahead.
Everything I do for you, Doug. I have a letter here from Harold Weisberg to a fellow researcher named Paul Hock, and this is from September 25th of 1968. And he's sending this letter to Paul because he was in frequent contact with Orestes Pena back in this time, while the Garrison investigation was going on, and trying, to basically get Pena to tell Bannister what he knew and all of that. But there was a couple things that kind of went wonky in their relationship when it came to Weisberg's book, Oswald in New Orleans. And it's been so long since I've read it, I'd have to go back and really reread it to see what the actual tiffs were.
Yeah.
But there were breaks in their relationship over the years. But, it basically lasted maybe 10 years between Pena and Weisberg. You can find correspondence from them from mid-'60s to the mid-'70s. So
now, in the Weisberg archives, that the Orestes Pena file's a big one. Lots of stuff in there. Lots of stuff.
Yeah, they were buddies. They would talk all the time.
Yeah.
So in this particular letter, he's telling Paul Hock about something, and he says something happened that turned him off, and he's talking about Pena here. I suspect I know what that is. After I started getting worthwhile information from him, Mark Lane tried to cut in on me. He never did any work in New Orleans, and I suspect he may have been sent. Pena threw him out on his ass. No one but Pena mentioned this to me. So I thought that was interesting.
Yeah.
Somebody sent Mark Lean to get to Pena, and Pena smelled a rat.
Huh.
And then he goes on to say this. When Hall was there, okay?
Yeah.
When Hall was there, which was just before my last trip, he also paid a visit to see Orestes Pena. I think he also was sent. Orestes is an intelligent man. He is subject to moods, but he really was a very good friend to me and was very helpful. He would have seen right through Hall's bullshit.
Wow.
Last time I was there, I went to see him as soon as I could.
So what do you think would have been Hall's motivation? If there was a message he was delivering, what might it be?
Shut your fucking mouth.
Yeah.
Who knows? He says, last time I was there, I went to see him as soon as I could. He cut me cold and gave me an impertinent message for Jim Garrison. By now, I hope he knows this was unjustified. If you have anything else that refers to him, I'd like to have it. Regardless of what he now thinks or does, he will eventually be helpful again, because he will never stand for the pressures of the other side. He will never stand for the pressures the other side applies. He also knows an amazing number of people in New Orleans and much about their private lives. I've never found him untruthful. He also is a man of extreme courage. Regardless of whether he answers or how, I will send him whatever I get that relates to him. When I'm out there, one of the things of which he must remind me to brief you is what he told me, what he led me to, and what I learned that way. It is quite significant and is not isolated and does not stand alone. Sincerely, Harold Weisberg. So, I mean, this is, Harold Weisberg was no slouch. I mean, if he respected somebody and he thought somebody was a rat, he would say it. If he thought somebody was truthful, he would say it.
Yeah, he was definitely opinionated. He was not afraid to tell it like he saw it.
And I would say he was generally a good judge of character.
Yeah.
And there you have it. So I find it interesting that Hall, I'm guessing Lauren Hall, paid a visit to Pena in New Orleans to threaten him.
And what was the time frame of that visit? Is there any indication what year Hall visited Pena?
No. All it says, the letter's from 68. That's all I know. It had to be before 68.
So in the middle of the Garrison investigation.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the whole story about, Hall was in California, and Garrison tried to extradite him, force him to, to come in and testify. And Ronald Reagan and Edwin Meese in California, they blocked his extradition. And then he volunteers because he says somebody hit him in the needle or hit him in the arm with a needle and gave him hepatitis. This is Lauren Hall. And,
right.
Somebody ran him off the road and, I don't know, broke his back or something in the desert. So he just, and then after fighting extradition, he just went in and talked to Garrison. And I don't think you can believe a thing he told Garrison when he was in New Orleans. I wonder if that's when he slid by and said hello to Mr. Pena on that trip.
Quite possible.
Quite possible.
Yeah, because when we get into our little Coup in Dallas discussion, I've got some interesting people that made their way to New Orleans at certain times. So, but that's all I got for that, Doug. What do you got, buddy?
Well, I thought we would talk about this new, of course, some big news in our world, the release of a new batch of 1,491 previously withheld and redacted JFK records, Mr. Rob.
Yes.
Yeah, big news.
Yeah, I sent one to, I sent a couple to our friend and former guest on the show, Miss Caroline. As you know, she's a big researcher into Marina Oswald and Yuri Nisenko. And I found some very interesting Yuri Nisenko documents, including a 170-page book apparently written by the CIA, all about Yuri Nisenko.
Oh,
and his
wow.
interrogation and different figures in the CIA that had a hand in his, let's just say his torture and interrogation.
Yeah, that's, I tell you, man, if Miss Caroline, if you're listening, if you haven't found this and listened to it, Richard Helms' testimony to the House Select Committee on Assassinations, I believe. Or it might have been the Church Committee, but I think it was the HSCA. Anyway, his testimony fascinates me, man. Richard Helms was not a good guy, but he fascinates me. Just his mannerisms, man. He's just so F you. It kills me. I don't know what this guy.
I know, but he knows so much shit. I mean, when you start looking through these documents and you see his name at the bottom of a lot of them, buddy.
Oh yeah,
it is like, okay, this guy really knew what the hell was going on.
But he did, and they grilled him pretty good about Yuri Nisenko and the way Yuri Nisenko was treated. About how he was in like the concrete house out in the middle of nowhere and solitary confinement and how they treated him and it's
they definitely tortured that poor dude.
Yeah. And Helms is you got to hear it. Oh man, you got to hear it. He's just very contrite, or not very contrite. He's uncontrite. He's the opposite of that.
Well, yeah, one of the things I sent Caroline was like a briefing report sent to Richard Helms about Yuri Nisenko's, quote, interrogations and what kind of information he was giving them and their tactics. And it's pretty brutal.
It's pretty brutal. And his whole testimony there, and it's on YouTube. I've actually got an MP3 of it somewhere that I got from somebody. I think it might have been you uploaded some on the Vault. Some of it, maybe a year and a half, 2 years ago. Guys, go to the Lone Gunman podcast, the channel From the Vault. Find it. Listen to it. It's absolute. It's so dramatic and riveting. I mean, to listen to him spar back and forth with Congress, it just, wow. I could listen. I listened to it on my commute all the way through it took me like 2 days. But
I think it was 4 or 5 hours long.
Yeah, really long, and really enjoyable. I say enjoyable. Wow, what the hell's wrong? I guess for people like us, it is.
Yeah, we nerd out with that shit.
Yes, we do. It's riveting and informative. And if you want to get a good picture of the man who was Richard Helms, it's, a good sense of what he was like. I guarantee you guys, go over to Rob's YouTube channel and find that in From the Vault. But anyway, I digress. Yeah, man, there's a lot of, I've seen some things in the interesting things in the old, the archives, the new releases, Rob. They did, let's see. Yep, the National Archives on this past December 15th, right? They released 1,491 previously withheld documents. The release did make a bit of a splash in the mainstream press, Rob. But it seems like
one of those Olympic diving size splashes.
Yeah, a little bit
very
of a
small.
splash, very, very small. There for like a day or two. Maybe the 36-hour news cycle. But everything I saw that was pointed out is kind of stuff we already knew. Really. And B, it's kind of being skewed almost sort of toward that quote-unquote limited hangout direction that we sense every now and then from the media or from the government, that where they're going to go, hey, maybe the Soviets and Castro did have something to do. You know what I mean?
I know. There's a whole lot of that in this release as well.
and a whole lot, and I say a whole lot. It's almost like under the surface kind of thing, kind of current. The media is essentially pushing the following topic points. I'm hearing a lot about this, the anonymous Australian call to authorities from the so-called Soviet chauffeur who heard, of an Eastern Bloc assassination plot. Now, this info is not new. We've heard this before, right?
Did it come from a chauffeur named Farker?
No, Farker's a horse and buggy guy. And plus, he's in Austria.
Yeah, okay, yeah, sorry.
Excuse me, I got a little frog in my throat. I had to get a hit off that Coke Zero. Hang on.
Jebediah Farker III.
Man. You ever heard that phrase, he's a smart fella?
I've also heard the phrase, he's a fart smeller.
Yes. I was gonna point. That was where I was going with that one. Oh, Rob, you beat me to it.
No, sorry.
When you beat me to it, Rob, it cuts like a knife.
He's a pretty fart smeller.
Did you guys hear that? The Bryan Adams reference went right over Rob's head. Whew. Man. Dang, Rob, you left me hanging there.
I did miss that one. I missed it.
Dude. Guys, I'm going to...
I didn't know we were still on Bryan Adams references.
Man, Rob, that cuts like a knife, buddy. That's...
All right, you motherfucker. Now I'm going to have to start Googling. Bryan Adams song.
Bryan Adams songs. Oh, this is going to be awesome. Also...
Please forgive me. I know not what you do. Also, Rob, details that folks like us have known for years regarding the Lee Oswald in Mexico City episode are, for some reason, being touted in the mainstream press, for that 36-hour news cycle after they were released on the 15th as, well, news. They're actually pushing the stuff as, hey, did you guys know, after the most recent release, like his visits to the Soviet and Cuban consulates, his attempts to get a visa, contacts or attempts to contact Soviet intelligence officer Valery Kostakov, stuff that we've known for decades like it's new info. Part of me wants to go, well, God, at least they're talking about it, But the context of all we know about that stuff is certainly not being put across to the public. Like the story of Sylvia Duran, they were talking about it like it just came out, like it's intriguing news, and it's all in this almost unstated, like, hey, maybe there was some funny business somewhere, kind of thing. But then but not coming off the Lee Oswald as lone assassin thing. Not like, like there maybe Oswald was in some funny business with somebody before he did it alone. You know what I mean? Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But then again, they also invariably roll out Posner's, waxed mustachioed ass out to say, well, this is much ado about nothing. So they always bring him out, of course. Now, for a snapshot of how the mainstream press were reacting to the release, Rob, I'd like to read a little bit from a story by CNN written by someone named Katie Bo Ellis. Is that right? Lillis? I don't know. Published this past Katie Bo Lillis. Yeah, this is how, let's give you a snapshot of how it was being played in the mainstream media, okay?
All right.
Headline, JFK researchers underwhelmed by latest release of assassination documents. Frustrated JFK researchers say there is little new to learn in Wednesday's release of previously classified documents. The vast majority of the almost 1,500 documents released by the National Archives as new appear to be mostly duplicates of previously released documents with only a few redacted words now and again revealed, often the name of a CIA case officer or the location of an overseas agency station that investigators had already policed together. So, it's always the next time, said the University of Virginia's Larry Sabato, a leading scholar of the assassination. He called the redactions that were removed in Wednesday's release minimal and worthless. President Joe Biden says it had, I got lost here. It says President Joe Biden says until December 22 at the earliest is when the other ones are going to be released. It has prolonged a bitter debate between the federal government and JFK researchers who argue that the CIA, the FBI, and other national security agencies have continually stonewalled a congressionally mandated release. Well, that's putting it, what do you call it? Lightly, right, Rob?
Mildly.
Mildly, yeah. It says in October, Biden delayed a scheduled release to, quote, protect against identifiable harm to the military, defense, intelligence operations, law enforcement, or the conduct of foreign relations that is of such gravity that it outweighs the public interest.
It's okay to do it next year.
Yeah.
Right?
Next year it'll be okay.
Okay. Yeah, what's 1 year?
You just need 365 more days to clear all this national security stuff up.
Right. Yeah, then we can piss everybody off. Yeah, cool.
Who are they waiting on to die, Rob?
There ain't too many left. I mean, I honestly don't know. And when you look at this stuff, it's like, okay, you want to protect your methods and practice, but who the CIA is not doing the same shit they were doing 60 years ago. Okay, folks. Times have changed and relationships with foreign countries have changed. And it's not like you're sending, a covert team into Guatemala to overthrow the government anymore. That kind of shit just doesn't go on anymore. Or you would see a lot more things. I mean, the last thing I can honestly say could have been something like that was when they got rid of Gaddafi there in Libya, when they just swarmed him and publicly ripped him apart. I mean, I honestly don't know. There could be some stuff going on behind the scenes that we never hear about anymore. But quite frankly, at this point, it all boils down to the almighty dollar. And whether or not we can control this and control that and the flow of this and the flow of that. Because again, does the United States really care about foreign dictators and, the way other countries treat their citizens? If they do, then why haven't we invaded communist China?
Yeah.
It's just at this point, just release the damn things and let things fall where they may. Like I said, at this point, it's been 40 years since the CIA has been called to the carpet to explain themselves. And ever since then, ever since the Church Committee and the Rockefeller Committee, the CIA has pretty much had free range to do whatever the hell they want to do without having to explain a damn thing. They've got enormous budgets, black budgets, and pretty much don't have to answer to anybody about anything they do at this point. So,
they got
what does it really matter?
They got called onto the carpet over a whole lot of shit in the 70s, but there was no discernible consequences. They just eventually,
right. And there's no indication that anything changed whatsoever.
Yeah, they just started ramping up shit in the Middle East at that point's what they did. Richard Helms ended up
Right.
the ambassador to Iran, for Christ's sake. before Iran fell, you know?
Yeah.
They didn't really, I never got a sense that certainly that they got reined in by the revelations and all of the hearings and shit that went on in the 70s. No, They got busted again with Iran-Contra later on.
Great.
But again, you know, most of this stuff that I've heard talked about after this release isn't really new. You know?
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff about Alvarado, which we've heard before, and his meeting Oswald in Mexico City. You know, Veciana was Army intelligence, you know, no shit. I mean, we can go on and on and on, but like I said, this is like, the lady in the article at CNN put it very well, that this was pretty much a big disappointment to serious JFK researchers.
Yep, 100%. But that doesn't mean there isn't interesting information in there, stuff that we need for context. I mean, if we need to study them because, you know, they're going to be little bits of information that you can use here and there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but, you know, they make it so goddamn hard. Like, all right, do I need to individually go and click through 1,500 fucking documents just to see what the hell is going on here? I mean, it's 2022, for Christ's sake.
Now,
can we not make this shit searchable for seriously?
Isn't it searchable at the Black Vault?
Only if you download all the files to your computer.
Yeah, man. And some of that stuff...
and I'm not junking my computer up with 2 gigabytes full of bullshit.
2 gigs, dude. There were parts. You remember the 2017 and 18 releases? Some of them were terabytes.
They were huge.
Terabytes.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, who can do that?
Well, I did download this cool. It's like a spreadsheet thing that's not near as much. But it's, you can click from that and it'll go right to the document. And it's not like, you still got to scroll through and, you know, but you can read what it's about and shit. You know, I'll send you that link.
If there's a description.
Yeah, and there might be a description, there might not.
Yeah.
But it's interesting. I mean, I've ran across a few things that were already that, you know, gave me a little more context when thinking about other things. I'll give you an example, okay? Of course, Antonio Veciana. If you are familiar with the research, you should be familiar, guys, with who Antonio Veciana was. He was with Cuban Exile with Alpha 66. He claimed, let's see, where am I at? He claimed, of course, to have seen his CIA handler, a CIA agent that he knew as Maurice Bishop, with Lee Harvey Oswald in Dallas, Texas. A man he much later claimed was CIA agent David Phillips, or David Atlee Phillips, if you like. Now, Rob, of course, he only identified Phillips as Bishop decades after he first made the claim of seeing this Bishop with Oswald. Decades after, right? And of course, this was after changing and massaging his story over a half dozen times over those decades. I think you and I are, we have an accord. We agree. I don't believe his story. You?
No.
Used to?
No.
You used to, right?
No.
I certainly did.
Nope, I've never believed it.
Really?
Nope.
Yeah, 10, 12 years ago, yeah. But not with what I've learned over the last 10, 12 years. Because really there's not one shred of evidence to back it up in reality. In reality, the declassified documentation regarding the movements and whereabouts and the operational movements and whereabouts of David Atlee Phillips, what we know about him, decoding his aliases and whatnot, it's impossible for him to have been anywhere that Veciana, it's just impossible. It just doesn't work. And Dr. John Newman has proven that to be some BS, okay? I just think it's twaddle speak at this point, right? It's just disinformation. But I want to read you this document. And this document has actually been released before, but it was previously redacted. And I don't know if I'd read it. I'd read something like it, but there's a tidbit of information. Agency originator is CIA. And for Mr. Joe Bax, riff number, sir, 104. 10422 10275. There, guys, you can look that up and read it yourself. Right, Rob? Look at that. We provide a public service.
That's right.
That's
Go
right.
suck on that one, William Kelly.
Well, let's hope he can fucking spell riff,
Take your wrinkled khakis over to the computer and search that shit on Mary Farrell.
Yes, but you don't have to actually put in riff, and if you do, spell it correctly. Date 1/21/1977. It's a 4-page document, a CIA document. Subject: JFK assassination. Veciana Blanche. His name was Antonio Veciana Blanche, or Blanche Veciana. I don't know. Anyway, I want to skip down to number 4 here. I'm going to read this. Veciana was born on 4 October 1935 in Havana. He was a member of the People's Revolutionary Movement, an anti-Castro group in Cuba during 1960 to 61, and was one of the founders of Alpha 66. Veciana was registered in ISR to the U.S. Army in November of 1962 and was terminated without prejudice in July 1966. Did you catch that, Rob? Veciana was registered in ISR to the United States Army in November 1962 and was terminated without prejudice in July 1966. On 23 July 62, Veciana was interviewed at his request by Mr. Harry Reel from the DCD New York office, Domestic Contacts Division. Listen, check this out, Rob. Veciana asked Reel to arrange a meeting with a senior CIA officer to discuss Alpha 66's plans to assassinate Castro and to request CIA's assistance, $100,000 U.S., 10,000 Cuban pesos, 48 hand grenades. There is no indication that this request was ever acted upon by CIA. Okay.
That's all he needed was 48 hand grenades. We're going to get us Castro, boy.
Sounds like, that doesn't sound like very much forethought and planning to me. We're going to, just 48 hand grenades.
I mean, what the hell, man?
This line. Veciana was registered in ISR to the U.S. Army in November of 1962. ISR. Thanks to Mr. David Boylan, our buddy, researcher extraordinaire, I know what ISR was, Rob. That was the Interagency Source Register. Now, David said, layman's terms, the Interagency Source Register was a place where all these agencies, right? Air Force Intelligence, ONI, Army Intelligence, CIA, they registered their sources, their assets. And David said, in theory, it's supposed to keep them from stealing each other's guys. Now, we both know that they never did stick to that very much, right? I mean, there's a lot of crossover with these guys. from everything CIA, ONI, Army Intelligence, Customs. There's a lot of crossover. But now think about it. The story he tells about Maurice Bishop giving him all this money and pretty well directing his activities all those years, right? As his CIA handler with all this money and all this logistics and all the plans and do this and do that. Because he makes it seem like he never made a move without this Maurice Bishop telling him to make that move, right?
Right.
Well, then why does he need to plead to arrange a meeting with a quote-unquote CIA officer if he was so damn tight with this Maurice Bishop, who was the chief of Mexico City anti-Castro operations? That's pretty damn senior, right?
Yeah.
So there's another thing in these documents that discusses Veciana coming to Army Intelligence, coming to them. And it's an Army Intelligence document. It's not a CIA document. But he's coming to them mad as a hornet because the Customs has seized more than one Alpha 66 gunboat. And he can't get anybody at the CIA, and this is in 1962, can't get anybody in the CIA to give him the time of day, much less help him get these boats back from Customs. He's just completely getting the cold shoulder from the CIA. And he tells the Army Intelligence people, all they ever want from me is information. They always offer help, but they never get it. All they try to do is pump me for information. And he's pleading with Army Intelligence, please help me get my boats back from Customs. Well, if he had the kind of relationship, that's what I mean about new information that puts old things in a different, new bits of information in these documents that can give you more context for things. You have to ask yourself, guys, if he had this close operational supportive relationship with this CIA agent, Maurice Bishop, who turned out to be David Phillips, then why the hell is he begging Army Intelligence to help him get his fucking boats back? Come on. Come on. Think critically. It's bullshit. It's bullshit. And this little tidbit of information, it just hammers that home harder, CIA's going, look, man, this dude is asking, as far as he's registered to the ISR, we don't fuck with him. He's Army Intelligence has got that guy, And then that of course leads eventually back to that question. Well, what would be his motivation for making the whole thing up? Who put him up to it?
Right.
Yeah. But anyway, that's all I had for that segment, Rob. I wanted to let everybody know that about the new document releases. And, of course, you can go to the National Archives. If you just Google search it, new JFK document release December 2021, you'll go right to the link and you can search and read and study and learn to your heart's content. Isn't that right, Rob?
That's right.
Yeah. Oh, damn it. Bumped the mic. Sorry. I had to adjust my headphone cord, Rob. I was running over it with the old chair there.
Yeah, don't want to do that.
No, don't want to damage that, man.
Might cut you.
It might. But a lot of this stuff that people are, I noticed there was a document that was on the very first page of this new release, right? Like, you can make it click. It can show 10 per page. You can choose 10, 25, 50. Well, about midway down the page, there's a document that has to do with Oswald in Mexico City. And it's that document where, that originally says he traveled by car. And everybody's like, for the first 2 or 3 days, even on the Ed Forum, people are like all, all in a tizzy over it. Like, look, they said he traveled by car. And the first thing I thought was, you know what? We read that thing on Quick Hits like a year and a half ago because it was actually released in 95.
Right. We are ahead of the curve.
I know, dude. And if I could remember where we read that thing, we would definitely have a big old "we fucking told you so" moment. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Yeah. A big "you heard it here first" moment. But I can't, for the life of me, I have no idea which episode we read it on. None.
No, I have no idea. Go listen back and listen to all the damn episodes and find it.
Yeah, just keep the whole archive on a loop, guys. That's what I recommend. I know Rob does too. Hell
That's
yeah.
right.
Okay, Rob, my friend, how far along are you reading Coup in Dallas?
Well, let me see. I believe I'm roughly to the chapter called "The Generals, the Teams, and the Kill Squads," which is about halfway through.
I am right now at page 207. Now, I'm reading it two different ways, though. I'm reading it straight through, right, from page 1, like you're supposed to, but I'm also doing a lot of jumping around. You know, I've done a lot of jumping around through it, reading this and that. And we do that, don't we? We jump through books back and forth.
Yeah, you got to. Especially in something this size, you know, you just want to run things down when you stumble upon them, because this book is full of it's all over the place when it comes to names, places, people. So if you come across something interesting, you know, you kind of want to humbuckle yourself there a little bit and kind of run it down, see what the hell is going on here. Now, I have seen a couple of interesting things in here, Doug, and I'll start with this one. And it refers to April 30th, 1963 entry into his date book of, the date book of Jean Pierre Lafitte, otherwise known as Jean Martin.
That's right. Now, how would you? I've done a little bit of reading about the guy, independent of the book. Man, I don't like a lifelong criminal mastermind or some shit. Is that a good way to describe him? I don't.
Yeah, but also a you know, he was a huge con artist and of course CIA. I don't even know what you call him. Disruption agent, black off the books type guy,
yeah.
You know, and just dirty tricks and all kinds of stuff. But in this entry here, in April 30th, 63, of course, this is 20 days after General Walker was shot at, roughly.
Right.
It says Lafitte was aware of a connection between General Walker and OAS officer and trained assassin Jean-René Sutra. He writes, Walker equals Sutra in New Orleans /arms. Confirmation of author Peter Cross's source, who contended that the two had met. This entry is all the more intriguing with mention of Thomas Eli Davis as well. Above all, it bears repeating throughout this investigation that Lafitte made a detailed note on October 9th in his date book that further implicates General Walker. It reads in full. O Sarn, O Sarn, O Sarn, O Sarn, get Willoughby, lit plus Sutra, others, Hungarians, Lancelot Pro, Kill Squads Dallas, New York, Tampa, Loaded E, T says called Walker to purpose weapons, Walker, Davis in New Orleans with swamp groups from Florida, Decker,
Davis,
Bender, Vickers, K of M.
Davis. Now, is this Thomas Eli Davis, or are we talking about Howard Davis?
Thomas Eli Davis.
Okay. Yeah, it'd be Thomas Eli, because he appears in the book quite a bit.
Yes, he's one of those guys that, he's been associated with Ruby and gun running, and appears that Thomas Eli Davis was some kind of a CIA operative as well. I think he was sprung from jail in Morocco by a QJ Win asset, and he was using the name Oswald at the time, which is interesting.
Now we should explain to people who are maybe we're talking about the book Coup in Dallas by H.P. Albarelli, guys. It was published posthumously.
Yes.
And the date book that Rob referred to is allegedly it's a date book. I don't know if diary. It's like a calendar, like a date book. You write down what you got to do that day or something. I keep one. I got a calendar. I got two. But allegedly, the guy that owned it was this lifelong con man, criminal, dark, off the books CIA occasional operator guy named Jean-Pierre Lafitte, who was I think he was a chef at one point, a professional chef, but globetrotter. He used over his lifetime all kinds of different aliases he had. Really.
Well, yeah,
strange.
I happen to have a list of his aliases here, which is kind of interesting.
Really?
Yeah, and this pertains to Lafitte's arrest in 1969. It says, according to FBI documents, during its 6-year search for Pierre Lafitte, the notorious operative had used dozens of aliases, including Louis Romano, Frank Maceo, Paul Maceo, Jean Martin, Peter Martin, John Martin, Jack Martin, Paul Martino, wow. John Martino, Paul Mertz, Jean Mondolini, Louis Heidel, Paul Jehan, Jean Jehan, Louis Mancuso, Jacques Montaigne, Peter Orsini, and Louis Tabet.
And these are all in an arrest report?
Yeah, FBI documents.
An FBI document.
Lafitte had been arrested by a team of 5 FBI agents at his home in Gretna, Louisiana on December the 8th, 1969, charged with being a fugitive from justice, and then was transported to Boston, Mass. For arraignment before a U.S. District Court for allegedly defaulting on bail posted 7 years earlier.
And the alias John Martino is actually listed in that FBI document.
I guess. I don't actually have the document. I'm just reading from the book.
Oh, okay.
Lafitte had been indicted in 1962 in Boston on 15 counts of mail fraud and transportation of stolen property after he allegedly swindled an investor, Ralph Loomis of Kittery Point, Maine, out of $350,000 through an alleged scheme financing mineral rights and diamond mines in Africa, right? And they said when they arrested Lafitte at his New Orleans home, another team of agents visited and searched the relatively new and hugely popular Plimsoll Club, where Lafitte had been hired as a manager and chef under the alias of Jean Martin. Now, the Plimsoll Club happened to be a restaurant. Guess where, Doug?
Where?
In the International Trade Mart in downtown New Orleans.
Boom. And we know who was the head honcho around there for quite a number of years.
Oh yeah,
yeah, Mr. Clay Shaw.
He received written compliments from Mrs. Lyndon Baines Johnson and numerous state and city officials for the French cuisine served at the club, and was made a Louisiana colonel by Governor John McKitchen. Now. Yes, other newspaper articles underscored that Lafitte Martin's cuisine had been a favorite of Clay Laverne Shaw, who, despite not being the head of the International Trade Mart and founder anymore, who by then had retired from his post, but he would still frequent the restaurant from time to time and was, like I said, one of his favorites, and be the only person arrested and charged with conspiracy to assassinate President Kennedy by New Orleans DA James Garrison.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Now, the date book. We should explain to the listeners that the book is built around this date book that this Jean-Pierre Lafitte allegedly kept, and before his passing, H.P. Albarelli was granted access to it and reproduced some of the date book entries in this book. But there are a lot of those date book entries actually listed in the book that are allegedly from this this Lafitte date book. And I got to tell you, I mean, look, I haven't read the whole thing all the way through, so I want to reserve judgment for the most part, if I could, Rob, but
Yeah.
there's something jumped out about it that doesn't make, well, let me explain. Something jumped out to a buddy of mine. And he asked a question about this date book, about this Pierre Lafitte date book, and it had to do with the August 9th entry and the August 21st entry that are reproduced in the book and quoted in the book. And the thing is, in those entries, the name Joanides appears, right? Now, a lot of people will be familiar with the name George Joanides. In the late 70s, during the time of the House Select Committee on Assassinations, after a while, they really wanted to clamp down on the access that the investigators like Eddie Lopez and Dan Hardway had. So the CIA assigned this liaison officer to work with them, to be like the gatekeeper, between them and the files they wanted to look at and the information that they wanted. And it was a guy named George Joanides. And it turned out they brought him. He was a staff officer. He was pretty senior. And it turned out they brought him out of retirement to serve as this CIA liaison between the House Select Committee on Assassinations, investigators, and CIA records. And at some point, Dan Hardway, Eddie Lopez, and these guys, they started to get suspicious about a Cuban group called the DRE, the Directorio Revolucionario Estudiante, which was the Students Revolutionary Directorate, I think is the way that translates, because they started putting out a lot of propaganda and a lot of stories immediately after the assassination, tying Oswald to Castro, and it was curious. And these guys, Hardway and those guys, they actually went to Joanides and they said, hey, you know what we would love? We would love all the reports of the senior administrator who was acting as case officer for the DRE in the summer of 1963. We want to look into whoever was running that show in Miami and New Orleans. And George Joanides basically says, all right, I'll look into it. Well, it turns out that person, Rob, of course, was none other than George Joanides, which is an amazing fucking story when you think about it, in and of itself, right? Okay. Now, Joanides has been suspect to a large swath of the JFK assassination research community ever since it was discovered that this happened, that the very person that he was protecting and he never gave up was himself, right?
Right.
I mean, it's an amazing story. But now here's the problem, and it is a problem, because as soon as it was pointed out to me, it immediately became like a gut check, like, okay, can we trust this date book as being authentic? Because it hasn't been publicly authenticated by a paper expert, an antiquities expert, a handwriting expert, ink analysis. There has been all of those tests, but not a public authentication, right?
Right.
We just don't know the provenance of it. But these two entries that have George Joanides' name on them, I am not convinced at all that Pierre Lafitte would have known Joannides' true birth name. That is, it seems to me, simple tradecraft. For Joannides to tell Lafitte his real name is not tradecraft, you know? I mean,
you could apply the same thing to James Jesus Angleton, who's mentioned in the date book as well.
Angleton was about 3-4 levels removed above street level operations.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Like how,
Yeah.
And even if he was personally running Lafitte, I mean, he definitely wouldn't have gave Lafitte his real name.
No, absolutely. No. I mean, it's kindergarten tradecraft, you know? I mean, let me give you an example of what I mean. Well, okay, like the DRE, the very few, 1 or 2 people involved in the DRE that ever laid eyes on Joannides knew him by one of 2 pseudonyms, operational aliases. Mr. Howard was one, and another one was Walter J. Newby, right? Those are just 2 that we know of through declassified documents, and they've Jefferson Morley has been in lawsuits for years trying to get, all the operational documents of Joannides released, and he can't. All right, so we only know of 2 operational aliases, but that don't mean those are the only 2 he had. Now, let me give you an example. And you know what? You can apply this to Antonio Veciana, too, this whole, what I'm about to tell you. Dude, back when we did that last episode with Bart, I had a Facebook shenanigans lined out that I was going to present to you because it was so crazy. And it was a Facebook post by that crazy lady who claims to have banged Lee Oswald back in 1963. You know who I'm talking about?
I do.
It was weird. She started out talking about the assassination, and it was like one of those things she does where it's like 12 paragraphs long, but about a third of the way through, she started talking about poisoned raw meat, and the phrase raw meat was capitalized, and it was in this post like 20 times. It was the strangest thing. The reason I didn't present it that day for comedy fodder was because I guess she removed it. I went back later, and it was gone. So, could not find or whatever. But it was really weird, and it was funny, and it was strange. But here's the thing about it. It started out with this sentence, right? I did screenshot the top of it, but I didn't have the whole thing because I wanted to read the whole thing. You'd have got a kick out of it. But the post began with this sentence. Lee told me that he was involved in a plot to murder JFK. And a CIA agent named David Atlee Phillips was involved. Now, it is...
Well, he's going to suck his raw meat off? I mean, what?
Now, here's the thing, right? If, and that's a huge if, Lee Oswald actually ever met that guy, you can be damn sure he never knew him by the name David Atlee Phillips. That is the most ridiculous, laughable wad of bullshit I've heard in quite a long time. I mean, look, for that episode, you know what I did? I did 7 minutes worth of internet research, right? 7 minutes, Rob. And I came up with the following known pseudonyms and operational aliases used by David Atlee Phillips in his career. You ready? Lawrence F. Barker.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Lawrence F. Barker. Douglas.
Was one of them raw meat?
No. No.
Okay, sorry.
No.
Go ahead.
Maybe it was. I can't think of anything right now, Rob. Man. No jokes. I couldn't think of one. You caught me off guard there. It's not raw meat. Lawrence F. Barker, Douglas Conti, Roberto, or Bob Lee Amses, Michael M. Choadden, Andrew Merton, Jack Stewart, Jack Warden, Jack Warren, Mr. Knight, Miguel Douglas, John D. Nadelman, Harvey Thompson, Neil Pickworth, Donald Barton. 14, Rob. 14 different operational aliases, many of them simultaneously, but he told Lee Oswald his real fucking name.
Right.
Come on.
Right.
Come on. Now, you're familiar with David Morales. He was also a top-level CIA Black Ops guy.
Yes.
Allegedly confessed to his friend, longtime friend Ruben Carbajal, sometime in the late 70s after a long night of drinking, that he was involved in the JFK assassination, apparently drunk. He was bitching about JFK and allegedly said, but we showed that son of a bitch, didn't we? And turns out that David Morales was heavy Black Ops for a lot of years. Cuba, Latin America, South America, Asia, Vietnam, Laos. I mean, he was one of those guys. Now, this guy, I mean, like just right off the top of my head the other day, I just started looking through some documents, aliases that he used. Stanley Zamka, Simon Martinez, Miguel Cosio, Diego S. Mardones, Daniel Suarez Moreno. Look, right now, and the reason I told you that, my point is that even Bishop, right? Even Maurice Bishop, Veciana didn't say, I knew a guy named David Atlee Phillips. He knew him by a pseudonym, Maurice Bishop. Even Veciana was smart enough to know you can't use the real name if you're going to fucking make up a story, because they didn't use their real names. If you're going to make up something about this guy, make up an alias, right?
Right.
Right. Now, here's the thing, dude. If those entries, those August entries in that date book, if they said, you know, Mr. Howard or Walt Newby, you know, which are the so far the only two operational aliases we know of Joanides, then that would be something different. That would make me sit up and go, whoa, wow, Walt Newby. Joanides was in New Orleans around that time, and he used the name Walter Newby. But looking at the Phillips and the, man, dude, Morales, right? I once read some documents, some of the 2018 releases, and I thought I had them in my computer. I couldn't find them. I was going to bring them to read as an example of how hard they use these pseudonyms to cover up the real birth names of these agents, like Joanides would have to someone like Lafitte. The Morales thing, they were assigning him another pseudonym, Rob, another alias. But they were assigning the alias and shit like the library card and the AAA card and the Social Security card and the Pan American Bank card and the ABC Bank card, all to another one of his aliases. One of his fake identities had a fake identity for him to use. Those were, yeah, that's the links they were going to.
Right.
And my gut tells me that for George Joanides to give Jean-Pierre Lafitte his real actual birth name while conducting an operation to assassinate the President of the United States is simply not believable at this point.
Right, because, I mean, he's operational in New Orleans and Florida, right, you know, handing out money from AMSPEL, you know, to some of these anti-Castro Cuban groups like the DRE. But I highly doubt he was using his birth name doing that.
No. I mean, I guess we really have to ask ourselves that question with regard to this date book. If we believe that Joanides would violate such a basic tenet of tradecraft. I mean, it's Tradecraft 101. This dude, Joanides, was an experienced, seasoned fucking spy, man.
Yeah, that's a big problem. You know, a lot of these entries in the date book are just initials, and we are, you know, led to believe that through Albarelli's, you know, intuition or whatever you want to call it, you know, he's assigning them an identity. Is the word is Joanides actually spelled out in the diary, or is it just his initials in there, like GJ or? No,
it's the name Joanides. I believe it's misspelled once and spelled correctly the second time. Yeah,
interesting.
I want to thank my buddy Tim Fatigue for pointing that out to me. Because, you know, we need to work together. You know, we gotta have skull sessions together. You know.
Yeah, I know everybody's getting excited about these new books, and you know, people have been waiting on this Albarelli book for years to come out, or any decent new book on JFK assassination for years to come out, and I guess we were all hoping that this would be the one. But again, it's got problems like most of the other ones do.
You know why I was looking forward to this book coming out specifically is because a couple years before he passed away, I heard him interviewed on a podcast, as I think he was working on the book. He was talking a lot about June Cobb then, but it was really enjoyable listening to him talk about his research. I mean, it was just a really enjoyable episode, a really enjoyable interview, and I'm still kicking myself that I didn't have him on the Dallas action before he passed away. You know, that's I regret that. But just because of I had read The Secret Order, his last one, which had a lot of interesting information in it, and it's well written too. And then I heard that interview, you know, and I'm like, you know, I'm really looking forward to this book. So, but again, I've got this Joanides thing bothers me about the date book, but I want to reserve final judgment until I read it all the way through, you know.
Agreed. We'll get there, buddy.
We will get there. All right. Well, because, you know, I mean, if you don't give somebody your real name, then if for any reason they're compromised or bribed or put under duress, well, if they don't know your real name, they can't reveal it, right?
Right. I mean, even Lafitte was using aliases in New Orleans. I mean,
yeah.
John Martin, Jack Martin. I mean, come on now.
You know, if they knew each other, Joanides probably knew him by Jean Martin.
Right.
But, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's something I have yet to reconcile, Rob, that bit of cognitive dissonance. And, but, you know, we'll get there.
Certainly.
All right. Now, you and I were prepping for this episode. You said I better buckle down, get comfy for the emails, right?
Yes. I told you, I said, you know, I love it that this show has taken off, and that is a huge success, and that sometimes the downfall is getting more and more emails in from our listeners. But we love our listeners, and we love the emails, so we decided we'd probably behoove ourselves, because we got so many, to dedicate the rest of this episode to nothing but listener emails.
Well, let's catch up, Rob. Let's do this thing.
Yes. Let me reach down in my bag and get to scratching around.
All right, dude. Cool.
All right. So, like I said, we've got emails aplenty, brother. So, let's start off with one from listener Gary Peters. He says, "Greetings, gentlemen. I wanted to send you guys a couple documents I came across way back when they first got released. I've been sitting on them that long, and boy, does my ass hurt. I am a total procrastinator, I guess, but one thing I'm not is a lone nutter, as you fellows tend to call people. I'm not going to go into all that right now, but I only say that I can in no way rule out Oswald's involvement considering his movements after the assassination. And I truly believe that Frazier, as well as his family members, saw Oswald carry something large to work the morning of the assassination, so there's that. Anyway, take a look through these documents I've included and let me know what you guys think. Most of what's there was just stuff I grabbed at the time that the new documents came out, but there are two things I came across that I'm really interested in having you two look at. The first thing is supposed to be some note cards that were being prepared to ask Nosenko about. In them, they wanted to ask Nosenko what he thought about Marina admitting she was a Russian agent to Life magazine. All right.
Did Marina admit that she was a Russian agent to Life magazine?
Well, apparently so.
Huh.
It is from page 18, item 9 of document. Get out your notebook, Bill Kelly. Riff number 104-10297-10211. He says, I've never heard anything about that anywhere, and I couldn't Google up anything right offhand either. The second thing is from a memorandum from the CIA to the Secret Service that I'm having a hard time believing is even legitimate, because they're straight up saying that Oswald was working for the agency in some capacity there, and that he was trained and sent by them for a mission inside Russia. Like I said, it's hard to believe. I mean, that would be a real big deal if true. Good luck in the quest, my good men, and for what it's worth, I'll just sign off as Mr. Poppycock, knowing to kick you guys, get out of the names. Cheers. Well, thank you, Gary Poppycock.
Hey, Rob?
Yes.
We get a kick out of the names?
We do. Now, if this email was from Sharon Peters instead of Gary Peters, it would have been a better joke than Mr. Poppycock. So,
Sharon Peters.
Come on, guys. Get with it.
That's probably the poor guy's wife's name.
Probably. Yeah. Her and her best friend, Anita Dick. The second thing that he's talking about here, Doug, because I have the docs here that he sent me, and of course you can't see them. But the second thing he's talking about is the McCone rally document, which we've discussed ad nauseum.
Oh, yeah, that's where I got the name of the podcast, the Dallas Action.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's on this show and your show and my show.
Oh, yeah.
Like I said, if it's legit, it's a game changer. If it's not, then it doesn't really matter. But I don't think anybody's definitively proved one way or the other whether that document is legit. Now, the first thing he refers to here is Marina admitting that she was a Russian agent to Life magazine. This is one of the things that was asked to Nosenko, what he thought about that. Why would she do that? And if she did, I'm sure it did not make it into the Life magazine article about her.
I wouldn't think they would print that. I would think that would be big news.
Yeah. I think it was probably something that they buried and sat on, and it never came out, never got out, because I've never heard of it. But, of course, it's been talked about that she was a Russian agent because, you know, some of the things that she was doing at the time that she met Oswald is a little fishy, you know, to meet 3 American defectors, have a relationship with 2 of them, and end up marrying and getting pregnant by one and leaving the country in a relatively short amount of time is pretty intense for a, you know, poor little Russian teenager at the time.
Yeah, for sure. What do you have the document there? I mean, or
what's that?
About the Life magazine thing. Is that in that document that he sent, or?
No, it's not.
Oh, okay. It's just something that he heard or has read somewhere else.
Right. I guess the
Yeah.
CIA was when they were questioning Nisenko, one of the note cards that was prepared to ask Nisenko about was they wanted to ask Nisenko what he thought about Marina admitting she was a Russian agent to Life magazine.
Wow.
So, if true, that's that's pretty inflammatory and something that I've been thinking for a long, long time. And that's one of the reasons that the FBI was really keeping an eye on the Oswalds and Marina in particular. And after they returned.
I've heard about programs where, you read the stories about like a program like where over in Eastern Bloc countries that there are girls who are women who that's their job. They're supposed to marry a Westerner, come over here, divorce him, and suddenly there's an agent in place. Or maybe not divorce him, but yeah. Like that's the whole plan, agents in place, sleeper agents.
Well, yeah. Or the old sparrow adage, the old honeypot.
Yep.
If they suspect there's something up with these defectors, you're damn right they're going to send hot chicks their way to bang them and try to get information out of them. Of course, that's going to happen.
Yeah. Or send hot chicks their way whose job is to latch onto them and get back to this country.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, not out of the realm of possibility there, Mr. Peters.
Not at all,
right.
Sir.
But yes, thank you for your email and thank you for the documents. And by the way, those documents were from the 2017 release, not the most recent. We got that email on December 5th, so it was before the release. All right, next up, we have an email from Pinko Commie Bastard.
Really? Do we now?
Yes, we do. It says, hey, y'all, as we know at this time of year, many of us are faced with the problem of getting the right present for the JFK assassination buffs in our family. Well, these problems may be over. I'd like to bring to your attention the special triple bundle offer that Amazon are doing on newly discovered works by the late David Ferrie. These fascinating texts include David Ferrie's Guide to Well-Drilled Cadets. Tired of out-of-step marching? Present arms not being snapped to? David Ferrie explains how to achieve damn tight formations and tells us how he drilled his air cadets. Special bonus chapter, how to get your hands on wieners for the barbecue party. His next book is Dear Bastard, The Collected Letters of David Ferrie. In his seminal work, very seminal, as in fluid, David Ferrie gives us an insight to his life and his comings and goings, includes details of car servicing and how to unblock an exhaust pipe, with a foreword by Clay Shaw.
Really now?
Yeah, I was waiting for you to insert more canned laughter there.
Surely you jest, Mr. Pinko Bastard.
Come Flying is his next one.
What was the next one?
Come Flying.
Say that again.
His extensive flying experience combined with reviews of 8mm movies, David Ferrie outlines how to entice the young men in your family to take an interest in aerial adventures. This item comes with a free box of tissues. What top reviewers are saying? Ted Rubenstein says,
oh, no.
I've honestly never read anything like it. Rob Clark says, get me a bucket. Colonel L. Fletcher Prouty says, these weren't the type of manholes I was expecting to read about. James DiEugenio says, Dulles did it. These books come delivered in plain packaging for your convenience. Best, Pinko Commie Bastard.
Well, there you go.
Thank you, Pinko Commie Bastard.
Thank you, Pinko. Don't
right.
Call us. We'll call you.
Yes. Let's see. Yeah. Okay. Greetings, Rob and Doug. This is from listener AC.
What up, AC?
I'm a long-time listener of Quick Hits, The Lone Gunman, The Dallas Action, and From the Vault. I enjoy each of them. I've gained knowledge from all of them and appreciate the hard work that y'all put in behind the scenes to make it all happen. I also find myself in the mid to later 40s age bracket and understand the grind. I also realize that the mid to later 40s are the new mid to later 20s, as evidenced by bad mofos such as ourselves. So may you both continue to rock on and keep kicking ass. The individual podcasts are great, but there are some things that just seem to produce a little magic when combined. Peanut Butter and Jelly, John and Punch, Forrest and Lieutenant Dan, Stone Cold and The Rock, etc. But Rob and Doug and the magic of Quick Hits definitely tops the list. Man, that's some kind fucking words there, Doug.
Dude, thank you so much, AC. Thank you so much for saying so. I'm glad you enjoy it, man.
Yeah. So my first question would be regarding Judith Very Baker in the summer of 63. You motherfucker. AC, you had us. And then you're going to ask us a question about this bitch. Okay. Could it have been an Oswald double with whom she was stirring up trouble? Was it another A.J. Heidel making her yell? Was she playing rodeo cowgirl, riding and snorting on old Don Norton? Was it Thornley, Carey, sucking on them berries? Or was William Seymour banging it out on the floor? Was Thomas bending it like Beckham? Or finally, could it have been Crayford, Larry, getting up in some Harry, that hot summer in New Orleans? You just never know. Okay. I apologize, AC. You redeemed yourself, sir. And look, I don't read these ahead of time. This is a real-time reaction. So, goddamn. Oh, he's not done yet. So here we go.
Oh, wow.
All right. Now that I've derailed, and you did, motherfucker, let me apologize to Doug and get back on track for the next question. It involves Hall and Hemming. If you had to give your educated opinion on each of them and their level of involvement in the JFK assassination and who they were working with, what would your current assessment be? I recently went on a pretty deep Hall Hemming dive and was just curious on y'all's opinion. I've been back and forth on mine. There's the whole Johnson 30-06 issue.
Yep.
Was it truly pawned or just left with half-cock or safekeeping? Were they really low on cash, or did Hemming just truly want it out of the car because of Hall's criminal record and bad luck on getting pulled over? Did Hall really steal the Jungle Carbine and scope Savage 22 from Hemming's apartment? Hemming also tells Hall about Hall getting popped for possession of illegal arms on October 31st, 63.
Yep.
The Johnson 30-06, a couple of Carcanos, a couple of carbines, a Springfield, and a couple of M1 Garands being the weapons. He also talks about how Hall was setting himself up to be a patsy, but also talks about calling Lester Logue in Dallas and telling him to blow Hall's head off if he sees him.
Yeah.
Then you have Hall's interviews where he talks about Hemming calling in and informing on his own raids into Cuba. Then Hall talks about how you can get the CIA's phone number from the phone book and how he's a jackal and all that, yet talks negatively about the CIA at other times. We do know that Hall was ex-Army and had been in prison with Traficante in Cuba. I could go on and on, but there definitely seems to be no love lost between Hall and Hemming. Anyway, sorry about rambling, but man, it can get deep looking into these two guys. Keep up the great work. It's appreciated, I promise. AC. All right, Doug.
Hall, wow. Yeah. Lauren Hall. Yeah, I'm pretty well convinced of his involvement. Absolutely. Man, Hemming, I go back and forth on. Something about the way he describes calling around frantically on the 22nd looking for Felipe Vidal Santiago just to make sure he wasn't in Dallas, which, we find out he was. It rings true to me, but man, I don't know. There's so about Hemming. Hall, yes, absolutely, dude. I'm convinced. Who he might have been working with, a guy named Jerry Buchanan, Felipe Vidal Santiago, possibly Walker. John Martino, possibly Rip Robertson. Yeah. Herminio Diaz Garcia, maybe. But Buchanan, Santiago, Hargraves, for sure. For sure. Rob?
Yeah, and something wasn't mentioned in the email, of course, is the new revelations from Hall's stepson, about the Carcano that was given to them, a week after the assassination, and told to get rid of it. And, of course, the new information from Josiah Thompson about the acoustical evidence, and there definitely was a shot from the grassy knoll. And Hall's revelation that there was somebody shooting on the grassy knoll, and there was somebody there to make sure that somebody was shooting on the grassy knoll. And
then you've got the revelations by the son of Ricardo Monkey Morales, who his father Monkey Morales told his son shortly before he died that he recognized Oswald immediately because he had seen him in one of these JM Wave paramilitary camps in Florida, where he was training people to fire sniper rifles, and that he was in Dallas at a safe house with what he called his CIA cleanup crew, in case it went bad and you had to pop the shooters in Dealey Plaza, the presidential assassins. That he was actually there with a cleanup crew, and they didn't know why this cleanup crew was. They didn't know what the mission was. They were just taken to Dallas, put in a safe house. There's something going down, you may have to clean it up. And it wasn't until after the assassination they realized what it was. That they were there to, if it went bad, somebody got caught or whatever, if they had to pop the shooters, basically.
It's not the first time we've heard of, a shooter from the grassy knoll. There's eyewitnesses, Bowers, the deaf guy, people from over on the overpass who saw, some smoke coming down from under the trees right there.
Yeah.
Activity behind the picket fence. And even, a figure seen in the Mormon photograph at about the spot that you would expect somebody to be shooting from. So it's very interesting when you try to piece everything together that we know about. But yeah, very, very, very interesting stuff. And thank you, sir, for your emails. I'm thinking, me and Doug are both on the same page that Hall was definitely involved and probably there in Dallas in one way or another, if not shooting from the grassy knoll. All right, our next one, Doug, is from, let's see if he has a happy name. No, it's just Mike in Texas. Okay. Hey, guys. Still loving your shows over a year after finding them. Well, good, motherfucker. You should.
Yeah, what Rob said.
Can't find any others that aren't either infected with nonsense or boring as fuck, as the kids say. Stone's doc was disappointing, and any time I try reading the books you've endorsed, my wife suddenly needs help with something. So I'm just running back through your shows randomly so you can read interesting stuff to me. Thank you both for that. Have you ever looked into the Citizens Committee to Free Cuba? I was reading about Dickie Chappelle on Spartacus and saw she was supposedly a member, along with the Luces, Pauly, and others. And I wondered if that group had anything to do with the $15,000 draw from Dickie that I think was mentioned by Hemming. The part below is probably too long to read on your show. Hey, we'll make that fucking decision. But just an idea for you two, given that you have writing talent and so much context. You guys should consider outlining a series starting during the Cuban Revolution. I'm sorry, with 1122 as the climax, and maybe Rosselli floating in a barrel as the final scene. Or take it all the way to Iran-Contra using your best unified theory of what happened, and have it written in the tone of James Ellroy's American Tabloid. Who the fuck do you think we are here? Which was optioned for development by Tom Hanks at one point. That's a great faction book that you need to read if you haven't. But some of the actual events you guys have brought to your audiences are even more interesting than some of the stuff Ellroy dreamed up.
That's what we were talking about on the last show. Somebody should, right. These investors need to come forward and let us fucking write one, a limited Netflix series or Hulu or Roku or something. Right. That's exactly what we were saying.
He said, and it can include assassination red herrings that are still interesting but end up being irrelevant to the assassination. What I've learned from you two and authors like Newman is the events leading up to and peripheral to the assassination are just as interesting as the event itself. It would make great scenes and narratives, such as some of these.
Man, so we really have. He's got a point there. The emailer has a point. Because what we started out doing when we started was more, localized, more focused on the assassination, but through the document study and stuff, we've really started to study this whole Cold War microcosm, in Florida and Louisiana and Dallas and Cuba, Yeah. So, and I agree with him 100% that the tangential stories that we need for context can absolutely be just as interesting as, the whole thing emanates from a pinpoint, in the middle, and that's Dealey Plaza, So he's got a point there. I agree with him as far as the tangential information and stories being just as fascinating to me at this point.
Yeah, well, here are some possible scenes for this movie. Now, so imagine these scenes that I'm going to read you, Doug. Imagine seeing them in like a movie or a documentary form. Sturgis standing on a mass grave in Cuba. Robertson and Lynch on the beach at the Bay of Pigs. Armory raids and paramilitary training. Thomas Beckham in the car with Lawrence Howard. I'd pay to see that. JFK being briefed on Operation Northwoods. Meeting where money discussed at General Walker's. A drugged-out Lauren Hall getting arrested with a load of guns. The Black Nine sequestered below deck in Baltimore. Rip Robertson in the Congo. Oswald and perhaps Thomas Arthur Valet and Gilberto Policarpo Lopez getting moved around like chess pieces. The Bayo Pauli raid. Cuba raids. Santiago's boat blowing up. Martino the Paymaster. Roselli and Harvey meeting in the Keys. Roselli in a storm drain in Vegas because his cufflink fell in there. Netflix's top show, 20 to 25 through 20 to 30, and Doug can accidentally knock over his Emmy instead of the framed pictures that used to be too close to him when recording. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year from Mike in Texas.
Mike in Texas has been with us since the early days, apparently. Yes. Like recording at home in my home office with the framed pictures around. Holy shit. You talk about, I completely fucking forgot about that. I went through this period for like 2 months where I finally moved them. I was like, God damn it, I keep knocking them down. But wow. Thanks for hanging with us so long, Mike. Very cool. Very nice email. And yes, my friend, that would make a damn good sequence of scenes. What do you think, Rob?
I think so too. I think that would make an awesome movie, and there's some great suggestions in there of some scenes that I'd really like to see myself get played out on the big screen for sure.
Yeah, like a meeting between Phillips and Morales, maybe, where they say, "Hey, something's going on." I don't know what.
Yeah, I think we could do something awesome, but that's going to require a lot of time and money, neither of which we have. So
right. So developers, contact Rob. Yes, at our email address.
yes, rich old ladies about ready to pass, holler at us.
Yes, people who own timber companies in Mexico, holler at us.
Yes.
Please.
All right, next
the
up
more
we got
zeros that are in the subject line on your email, the more likely you are to get a response from Rob.
That's right. That's right. No Nigerian princes, though. They will be excluded.
No,
all right, next up we got email from Scotland, Doug, from our buddy Chris O'Brien.
Chris O'Brien.
Yeah, he says, "Hi, guys." No, I'm not even going to do a Scottish. I'm going to fuck that all up. I recently read a Facebook post which contained a transcript of Jack Ruby's deathbed description of the Oswald shooting, and the transcript came from this source: Elmer Gert's Moment of Madness, The People versus Jack Ruby. Included in the post was a link to a condensed audio version of the conversation, which I've listened to. In both the text and the audio, Ruby said he didn't know Oswald and that he had no recollection of shooting him. He described the build-up to the shooting and being grabbed by a cop afterwards, but said he couldn't remember the actual shooting itself. It was suggested by the Facebook contributor who posted the link that Ruby may have been under some kind of CIA mind control project, i.e. MKUltra. I'm always skeptical when this is raised in discussions of the RFK assassination, and I'm equally skeptical of it being associated with the JFK assassination. However, the person on Facebook who believes Ruby was hypnotized in some way also posted a document which allegedly shows that Ruby was seen in prison by an MKUltra doctor, namely Louis Jolly West. According to witnesses, Ruby had been seen with Oswald prior to the assassination, so he must have known him, right? If so, then why lie about it when close to death? Was Ruby under some type of hypnosis when he shot Oswald? Does that explain why he couldn't remember it? Or is it simply the case that Ruby lied throughout his deathbed interview? I'd appreciate your thoughts, guys. Keep up the good work. Best wishes, Chris in Scotland.
Thanks for the email, Mr. Chris. I don't know. Who knows? I can't imagine him not remembering it, but.
Well, here's the thing, Doug. People often forget that, Jack Ruby was not a cold-blooded killer. Okay? This likely was the first time he actually killed anyone.
Yeah.
And if you're forced to kill someone for whatever reason, it's a very traumatic event and likely one that you're not going to want to remember. And the brain is a wonderful thing. Okay? It helps you, to function normally. It automatically blocks out traumatic events.
Yeah.
Now, of course, these could, manifest themselves later down the road in your life, such as somebody who was abused as a child. Your brain allows you to shut off those memories so that you can, be a functional person in life.
Right.
But down the road, it might come back to haunt you, bother you for whatever reason, and you got to go to therapy or whatever the case may be. So that's a possibility as well, that it's nothing more than, Jack Ruby's brain just blocking that out, because, that would be like asking me or you, Doug, to go kill somebody. If they have our kid hostage, then they're going to kill our kid if we don't do this. You know what I mean? So what do we do? I mean, you're going to do anything to save your kid. So, but we're not killers. We've never killed anybody before.
Yeah.
So you've got to be stressed the fuck out. You know what I mean? Like, the anticipation's got to be brutal.
I can't even imagine, dude. Jack Ruby,
when you pull that gun out and step forward, shoot, and I mean,
the hour before that happened, can you imagine being Jack Ruby?
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
So
Traumatic
I understand
thing for sure,
why
yeah.
Jack Ruby doesn't remember. You know what I mean? So I don't think it's anything sinister like MK Ultra or anything like that. And as far as the CIA MK Ultra doctor visiting him in the hospital, it might have just been to extract or try to extract information. Who knows? For whatever reason. But yeah, I mean that's all I got on that. What about you, Doug?
On that email, yeah, I don't. I guess it's possible that it would be so traumatic that he wouldn't remember, but I would think it would be so eventful that he would. But that's just me. You know, everybody's different, though.
Yeah,
certainly possible.
Yes. Okay. Damn. All right.
What?
Here comes. It's a good one coming.
Oh boy. Should I be ready for it?
E. Howard Hunt's widow, Miss Joy Hunt.
Joy Hunt.
Yes. Hi, boys. I hope this email finds you well, that you are enjoying a fine Christmas and New Year and have plenty of holly around your knobs and knockers. Now, I know that you're both fans of internet shenanigans and even malarkey concerning JFK matters. Well, here's one from our dear friend Bart Camp. Oh, Lord. Bart's been releasing some fascinating videos on YouTube of interviews with Malcolm Blunty Blunt.
Yeah.
As you know.
I've been watching
one of the recent ones. And in one of the recent ones, the viewer was treated to an hour of Bart with widely splayed legs while the camera focused front and center on his crotchal area. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm a happily married woman, but this does make me think of joining Dealey Plaza UK to enjoy some more of this entertainment.
Oh.
I bet Jackie Kennedy would have liked to get her hands on this particular ballistic sock puppet. Love, Joy.
Ballistic sock puppet?
Yeah. You remember the lamb chop
Best
puppet? You know, with
dumb
the gun
thing
inside?
ever.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah.
There's a picture here there's a picture here of Bart and Malcolm on looks like a very cozy love seat with a red arrow drawn to Bart's widely splayed legs and crotchal area. So thank you, Joy, for pointing that out, and we too enjoy it as well. We love you, Bart.
Note to
and
Bart.
your crotchal area.
Note to Bart. Be mindful, sir. Be mindful.
Yeah. Know that
Wardrobe,
people are watching and see things.
wardrobe malfunction. Yes.
Yes. Next time, let's do it in some gray sweatpants. Okay, Bart? Awesome. Okay.
Or behind a desk, maybe. Yeah, what are we, savages?
I believe the kids call that these days, Doug, the dick print.
The dick print?
Yeah, you know, where you can see your dick, you know, under your jeans. You know, think Robert Plant in 1971 on stage in some very tight blue jeans.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Is that what Bart had? Bart had the Robert Plant going on?
Oh, yeah.
Is that what was
He had
going
the
on there?
Dick print in full force.
Okay.
And Joy was loving every fucking second of it.
Well,
So,
regardless, he does great work. Come on, let's face it.
he does. We love Bart.
We love Bart. What's up, Bart?
We're busting his proverbial balls.
Yes. Well, we can see of him anyway.
Yes. Okay, so next up, oh my God.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. Hang on a second. It says, Dear Podcaster, great news. You have comments on your podcast in the Podbean app. Podbean is a popular podcast player for Android and iPhone.
Hey, I use Podbean quite a bit.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
Apparently,
Wait a minute, we're on Podbean?
yeah.
Wow, I had no idea. I follow us on Spreaker, but of course, and I do use the Podbean app, but I didn't know we were on there.
Yeah, I have that, dude. I have this show every motherfucking where, and the reason I know it was listened to on my feed is because the title of the episode is "Quick Hits," episode 27, "Scapegoats, Pack Mules, and Monkeys" with Bart Camp. So, the comment says this.
Well, I'll be damned. There it is.
When Nero died, it was believed he was still alive in the East and would return. It led to his appearance in Revelation, the Antichrist, 666 being the numeral for his name.
Okay.
So, whoever left this message, I think you got the wrong podcast episode. Or maybe you're just batshit crazy. I don't know. I don't think we talked about anything about Nero or Revelations or the Antichrist in that episode, but maybe we did. I don't know.
I don't think we did.
That was creepy as hell.
I really don't think we did. Wrong show, bro. Wrong show.
Oh, Lord. Okay.
He said, oh, Lord, that can't be good.
Hi. I'm Helen.
Hello, Helen.
Wife of Gary Miller. You know, the guy who emails you and thinks you are fat, bespectacled, paunchy, sweaty, middle-aged guys with freakish comb-overs, obviously. Fellas, can I ask you not to make fun of Gary's conspiracy boner, please? See, these days, what with Gary being of a certain age and all, I'm just grateful for any sort of boner, no matter how it's caused. And if it takes speculation on JFK's murder to do it, so be it. At least he's no lone nutter.
That's right. Yeah.
Last time he asked for my help adjusting something down there, he definitely had two.
Okay, then.
Get it? Two nuts. He's not a lone nutter. Anyway, got to run.
What?
He's been in the den for the past 2 hours watching JFK Revisited. So I'd better go and find my negligee and hop on that conspiracy boner. After 2 hours of that simulation, there won't be any need for the blue pills tonight, I'm thinking. Lots of love, Helen. Thank you, Helen.
Thank you, Helen.
Go take care of Gary's conspiracy boner, please.
So her name's not Sharon Peters.
No. This is from Rudolph Hucker.
I wonder if she'd like it to be.
Am I missing something about this name? Rudolph Hucker. Rudolph Hucker. Rude old
fucker.
Rude old fucker. Yeah.
Yeah,
damn.
rude old fucker.
Okay. Rude old fucker. You got us there.
That could mean any number of people that we already know.
Yeah. If Jackie Kennedy was a trained CIA assassin, she could have blown my head off any time. Thank you, Rudolph Fucker. Or whatever your name is.
And in your head, you were probably thinking, man, this is going to be so badass. When in reality, it was just lame.
All right. Our next one up here, Doug, is from Dr. Ivan Nasty-Jestikoff.
Well, easy for you to say.
Greetings, comrades. I was gratified to hear that Comrade Douglas had once enjoyed a Havana cigar with Comrade Horn. This honors the spirit of JFK assassination research. After all, was it not Comrade Oswald who once said there was nothing he loved more than getting his lips around a nice, stiff Cuban? Incidentally, Comrade Rob, if you still have a bulging sack, we have some very effective cream for that. Dr. Ivan Nasty-Jestikoff, Moscow COVID Research Center, formerly the Priscilla Johnson Macmillan Syphilis Clinic, 21 Oliver Stone Prospect, Moscow, Russia. Thank you, Dr. Ivan.
Thank you, Dr. Ivan.
I do still have a bulging sack, and I need some cream.
Ivan jacking
Just
off?
nothing.
That was his name?
Nothing that burns, please.
No.
No, nasty Jestikov.
Aloe is what you need, Rob. Aloe.
Yeah, I need something soothing. I don't want like something hot. All right, this comes from Tim from Illinois.
Hello, Mr. Tim. Thanks for listening.
This is about an 8-part series. I'd really dig someone doing something like that properly. I mean, he just jumps right into it. I'm really finding myself to be a Katzenbach memo Raleigh call JFK type. No, neither one's ices anything as certain. What the fuck? But if LHO was being played as an intelligence operative, the fix was in from the Monday after the murders. And you have any ability to read responses, LHO in the midnight press conference, something was afoul regarding the Dallas police and the alphabet agencies. Am I the only one who finds the TASS response within 2 hours of the coup more believable than the entire Warren report? Seeing as the MSM, mainstream media, had their marching orders within 45 minutes of the assassination, that's another fascinating dovetail of the entire case. How long was it before, insert name of reporter here, was at the very least intimated to, if you say what we tell you to say, you've got a fine career in front of you. If not, you end up like Hugh Ainsworth. Tim from Illinois.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I agree, Tim from Illinois. I think the Katzenbach memo is important, but I'm pretty sure the Raleigh call never happened.
Well,
so
there's an interesting thread on the Education Forum, actually, about the Raleigh call. Let me see if I can find. There's another name, someone else to consider, a John Hart. There was a CIA guy in the area at the time. I would have to find that. Look that up, Tim, about the Raleigh call. The Raleigh call revisited, I believe, is what the name of the thread is. And I can't remember the details. I read it a week or so ago and found it very interesting and meant to get into it quicker. But if he did make a phone call to someone in North Carolina, has that been debunked, Rob? Is that what you're saying? It's pretty much been debunked. Where'd Rob go?
Sorry, I'm here. Yeah, I was saying Bart looked into it and determined that the Raleigh call never happened. And that's good enough for me. If Bart's convinced that it didn't happen, then I'm on board. Because I believe the only real, quote, evidence was kind of pieced together way after the fact, and it's just kind of hearsay and nothing can be proved one way or the other. But I do have something about from Grover Proctor, who is a big proponent of the Raleigh call on my From the Vault segment. If you care to listen to that might enlighten you a little bit. But yeah, thank you, Tim, and pay attention a little bit more in grammar class next time. Yeah, thank you.
Grammar matters.
Yes. You speak like you are from another country. You're from Illinois, dude. Come on. All right. Our next email is from Mike Oxlong.
Of course it is.
Mr. Mike Coxlong. Yes. Now, Vladimir Putin has revealed he once moonlighted as a taxi driver. Will Oliver Stone be desperate for him to drive his Uber next time he goes to visit the Kremlin? Mike.
No, I believe if Oliver Stone visited Vladimir Putin, Oliver Stone would be driving the car.
Yeah.
Yeah, he would have a little black cap on.
Yeah, while he performs fellatio on Vladimir Putin while they drive. Yes.
Figuratively, at least.
Or literally.
Now that we can't confirm. Figuratively, we can.
All right, next up from David Ferry's Merkin.
David Ferry's what? Merkin?
Merkin, yes. Not sure what that means, but okay.
Easy for you to say. Go ahead.
Subject matter, William Seymour. Recently, I ran across a very interesting individual in the Kennedy case by the name of William Seymour. Seymour was a member of Interpen, the Intercontinental Penetration Force, established in 1961 by one Jerry P. Hemming. Other members
alive,
included
too.
Lauren Hall and Lawrence Howard, among others. According to Spartacus, this group of experienced soldiers were involved in training members of the anti-Castro groups funded by the CIA in Florida in the early 60s. When the government began to crack down on raids from Florida in 62, Interpen set up a new training camp in New Orleans. The group carried out a series of raids on Cuba in an attempt to undermine the government of Fidel Castro. This involved a plan to create a war by simulating an attack on Guatemala Naval Base. During this period, Seymour traveled around America with, of all people, Lauren Hall and Lawrence Howard.
Yes, he did.
Michael Rode, a lawyer who met them during this period, described Hall and Seymour as two extremely dangerous, committed individuals. And according to Penn Jones, following an interview with Lauren Hall, it was Lauren Hall, Lawrence Howard, and William Seymour who had visited Sylvia Odio to solicit aid in connection with an anti-Castro cause. This was later denied by Odio and Hall. However, what caught my attention was that Hall also stated that Seymour is similar in appearance to one Lee Harvey Oswald. What do we know about the comings and goings of William Seymour during the autumn of 1963? Could he have been the Oswald lookalike who murdered Tippit and led the police on a merry chase ending at the Texas Theater? Could he have been the one who entered the theater without paying and went up to the balcony? I must admit this guy has escaped my attention in the JFK case for all these years.
Well, he certainly could have been. We know a lot about his movements. He was arrested with Hall went out west. Lauren Hall went out west, picked up okay. The chronology was Hemming and Hall were out west. In January of 63, they pawned the Johnson 30-06 rifle. Later on, after being arrested twice for Neutrality Act violations and gun charges, already, Hall goes out to California, picks up with Howard, as a matter of fact, Lawrence Howard, picks up a trailer load of medical supplies, guns, and the Johnson, drops all of that stuff in Dallas because someone's going to convert all the M1 Garands to full auto that are on this trailer. And then he goes back to Florida, comes back with Seymour. They pick up the trailer load of guns, or they're there to pick them up. After they've been converted, they get arrested for pulled over possession of amphetamines they found in the glove compartment. Then they both get kicked loose. Incredibly, they take the guns back to Florida, and when they get there, Rob, they actually go to the home of this photographer who had been embedded with those guys and had been involved in the biopoly raid, named John Thomas Duncan. And you can go to for the listener, the email writer, go to Cuban Information Archives, CubanExile.com, and just search Tom Duncan, and they have his papers and things, and there's great stuff. Correspondence between Tom Duncan in 1966 and 67 and Dick Billings from fucking Life magazine, where he's describing all these guys, Interpen and Seymour and Hall and Hargraves and Howard and, all of their shenanigans and operations and things they got into. So, but what do you think, Rob? Could it have been Seymour? At the Tippit scene, say, for example.
Well, I don't know about that. I mean,
yeah, I don't either. I guess it's certainly possible.
Yeah, I don't think that, and we have pictures of Seymour from 1963, and he doesn't really look, to me anyway, he doesn't really look a lot like Lee Harvey Oswald. He looks more like James Dean than Lee Harvey Oswald.
Oh,
he's a good-looking dude.
Slender guy with darker hair, other than that, no more than any other slender guy with darker hair look like Oswald,
Yeah, and he was a fan of facial hair, and he could be mistaken for some of these Leon Oswald sightings, such as with the Odios and in New Orleans with David Ferry and Shaw and some of these other guys. But as far as anything to do with Tippit, I would say no.
Probably not. He could, like you say, he could have been involved in setting up Oswald here and there. Now I've never been able to not put him in Dallas on the 22nd, but Hall, I'm pretty sure we can put in Dallas on the 22nd, and Felipe Vidal Santiago, I know damn well we can, along with Hargraves. There's no question. But as far as Seymour, I haven't been able yet, to my satisfaction, to put him in Dallas on the 22nd. Not yet. Not that I rule it out, because it's like you said, he was hardcore and he was all in with these guys. And there's just as much of a chance of him being involved as Howard, I think. Well, no, maybe Howard more, right? Yeah.
Yeah,
like I say, I've never been able to put him in Dallas specifically.
Yeah, nobody puts him in Dallas specifically. All right, next up we got from Jamesy Boy, Mr. James Elridge. Good afternoon, boys. I hope you both are munching away at those new files. Find anything expressing how the, quote, ejaculate was flying on any night? Fucking disgusting. Anyhow, I wanted to send you something I read in the documents. I'm quite sure you've already seen this. However, I will send it regardless. Good times, Jamesy Boy.
Thank you, James.
All right. So let's see what James sent us here. Let me open this up. Jesus Christ. Okay. Negro then said that he was sorry that he could not accompany Oswald, but said, "You understand my situation." Oswald then replied, "That's all right. I can do this by myself." The source was of the opinion that Oswald had come from Havana, and when Oswald entered, he was affectionately greeted by a female employee of the Cub Emo who has blue eyes and lives at Cal Juarez 407. Source also stated that Oswald was given $1,500 for extra expenses. Source stated that when he went to the bathroom, he saw Oswald counting the money in American dollars on the patio, which is adjacent. RSO and DRSO made an appointment to meet Alvarado at 9:30, 26th November at the cafeteria of the Hotel Francois. Okay.
Mexico City document.
Yes. And it's about Alvarado, of course. Right. So yes, and we touched on it briefly earlier. And I don't know how much stock to put in these Gilberto Alvarado documents. Is it interesting? Yeah. Can we prove any of it? No. It's a story like any other.
Right.
And of course, and trying to send me this stuff, James fucked up, and he says, "Sorry about all these separate emails. Fucking pic files were too big. LOL. Anyway, the paragraph on number 82 is on 2 pages. See ya." Yes.
Well, there we go.
Get your shit together, James. I mean, goddamn, I can't look through 4 fucking emails to find a guy one picture. I mean, dude, come on.
Got to be smarter than what you're working with, homie.
God damn.
Yeah, damn.
All right. Well, we got another one from Scotland, Doug. Another one from Chris O'Brien.
All right.
Yes.
We got 2 from Chris.
Yes. And he must not have a life, man. He sent this on Christmas fucking day. Okay. Just kidding, Chris. We love you. Hi, guys. Probably been done before, but this is just for fun. Imagine, Doug, you're Lee Harvey Oswald, and you weren't shot by Jack Ruby in the basement of the DPD on Sunday, November 24th, 1963. And instead, you're going on trial for the assassination of JFK. Obviously, you didn't commit the crime, sir. You're an innocent man, right? And so you want to get this across to the jury via your attorney. Your attorney being none other than jive-talking Mr. Dean, top, ho-ho, fucking Andrews, no less. With that in mind, what are the 3 pieces of evidence you instruct Mr. Dino to enter into evidence on your behalf? The evidence which you feel will at least cast doubt in the minds of the jury as to your guilt and help strengthen your case. Love the show. Keep up the good work. All the best. Chris O'Brien from Scotland. Now that, Doug, is an interesting fucking question.
If I were Oswald, I would have given him 3 names. I would have. It wouldn't have got that far because I'd have sang like a fucking canary. I'd have given him 3 names as evidence. You need to go find this motherfucker, and this motherfucker now, and put me in federal protective custody right fucking now. I don't know if that was a thing in 1963. But I don't think if Oswald would have lived, he would have sang like a canary. There's no telling what he probably told them between landing at the police station and when he got shot. That once he got shot, a bunch of people were able to go, oh, thank fucking God, we can burn these notes now. Holy shit, this can go away. What he told us. Oh, my God. You know what I'm saying?
Right. And you can make damn sure they didn't pull out the tape recorders for a fucking reason.
That's exactly right. And
but
yeah, but I honestly think he would have sang like a canary. Had the jig was up, but he died.
Yeah. Now, to answer your email more directly here,
look at for example, what Hoover told LBJ on the 23rd. Right, number one, that ain't him in Mexico. It ain't him on the tapes. Right, they've heard the tapes, and then he says, "Look, we know he's been to Cuba." But he won't tell us why he went. J. Edgar Hoover is not telling the president he denies going. It's he won't tell us why he went. See, I think he told him a whole lot of shit before he died. But it was just, there's no telling what he spilled. But I think he would have spilled his guts. I don't think he would have ever gotten to trial. And if he had not, if he had lived and gotten to trial, then there would be no Warren Commission. So therefore, they couldn't cover up the ballistics. And what the one guy told the HSCA in the late 70s, like, hey, I can't match 399 to that Carcano. I can't tell you, I can't match those to the exclusivity or exclusively together. What's the word? What's the phrase? Conclusively
to all others.
Yeah, to the exclusion of all other barrels.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
Probably and they wouldn't have the fucking magic bullet bullshit to fall back on. I think ballistics would have sank it. Chris, find the book. It's probably on Amazon. The People v. Lee Harvey Oswald. Faction book that Dr. Walt Brown wrote. And it's basically a story of how, with an honest trial, the case would have fallen apart on the prosecutors. It's a great book.
Yes.
But yeah.
Yeah, I was going to mention that book as well because it's a scenario just like you asked for. And there's also a movie as well, I believe released in the it might have been 64, 65, about Oswald on trial. And it's very interesting too. But yeah, I believe, forget all the FBI investigation that was done. Forget all the Warren Commission crap. You would have had DPD evidence only. And all you have to do is put that rifle into evidence. And if you could prove that that's not the same rifle that was used in the shooting, or that tie back to you in any way, shape, or form, and was misidentified by police at the scene of the crime, initially by multiple people.
As a 7.65 Mauser by multiple people. Multiple. Yeah.
With a shitty chain of evidence on the shells.
Oh my God, dude. If you're Dean Andrews, all you need are the Boone and Weitzman affidavits that say Mauser.
Yeah, that dog don't hunt.
Hey, Your Honor, can they produce this rifle, please? We want to see this one. The defense. We disclosure. Where'd that rifle go? Well, that's the one they have. No, the one they have is a Mannlicher Carcano, Your Honor. We want that rifle.
Yeah, I would also put that bag that they carried out of the school book depository into evidence as well, and I'd throw Buell Frazier up on the stand and say, "Is this the bag?"
And then show how the bag that was brought out of the depository is an exact match of the one that was found in the dead letter office a few days later.
Right.
Look, somebody's trying to set my client up, Your Honor. There's three pieces of evidence right there, man.
All they have to do is throw Frazier on the stand. Is this the same bag Lee Harvey Oswald carried to work? Nope.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
But Oswald was probably like, look, you need to go find a motherfucker named Diaz and a guy named Skip Hall.
Yep.
One's probably in Florida by now, and the other one's probably in California by now.
All right, next up, we have email from Wayne Warner. Yes, Wayne Warner.
Wayne Warner.
Double W. All right. Gentlemen, you two are my gurus, and I am not worthy. That's right, motherfucker. That said, as someone who has put many rounds of ammo down the barrel of a long gun, it is my opinion that if I could pick a location for a good triangulated fire zone of a moving target, one of the shooters would be directly in front of the target, as it would require a simple elevation adjustment for an accurate shot. The same could be said for the rear shooter, for example, the sixth floor or the Dowtex. Now, I may be wrong.
Well, you got to be mindful of that because that Dealey Plaza is actually a pretty good downhill grade. So a good shooter's going to have to think about that too.
He says, now I may be wrong, but I think the first shot may be the one that entered JFK's neck from the front, through the windshield of the limo. If you line up the position of the limo on Elm Street where Kennedy is seen bringing his hands up to his throat on the Zapruder film, we might assume that this is approximately where he was struck. Now skip to frame 408 of the Zapruder film or so, you will see what looks like a furniture truck parked on the eastbound side of Main Street about 60 to 80 feet east of the triple overpass. It is my belief that concealed in this vehicle was the shooting platform for one of the teams. Having laid this all out, the president's throat wound, hole in the windshield, and furniture truck line up perfectly. It also explains why the first shot sounded like a firecracker. The echo from inside the back of the truck through an opening just large enough to shoot through while concealing the shooter. I have never heard this theory before, so it might be worth a look-see, right in plain sight. Adios, motherfuckers. Double W, Wayne Warner.
That is an interesting theory. I didn't know anything about that truck. Thank you for pointing that out, dude. I'll look into it for sure.
Yeah, that's like the old Beltway shooters. What they were doing, they would laying down in the back of that Impala and picking people off through the fucking keyhole or whatever.
Man, if you could build it right, get a guy like a little panel that would come off and give you, that you would fire through, and you could even, if it was a box truck, man, you could even build a platform and get the shooter prone on his belly, in a comfortable firing position. Oh shit!
Now,
good idea,
Wayne,
man.
I'm sorry to take a big giant shit on your theory,
poop,
but. And I'm not going to argue that the JFK's neck wound may have been a shot from the front. I'll give you that. But when you speak of a bullet hole in the windshield, sir, this has never been proven. It's been alleged that there's a bullet hole in the window. But what it looks like to me is more of like something hit the windshield and cracked it. More likely a piece of Kennedy's brain or a piece of the bullet or something like that. I've never seen a picture of the windshield of the limo with a through and through bullet-sized hole in it.
Yeah, me either.
I would think it would crack the fuck out of that windshield a hell of a lot more than what is there.
I would reserve judgment until I was shown a very clear image. That's where I'm at too. Yeah,
because we never heard anything from the limo driver Greer about
glass flying in his face,
a bullet barely missing him, and I mean, it would have had to been a hell of a shot because he'd had to thread that needle between Greer and Kellerman, Connolly and his wife to get to JFK, and through the windshield. I mean, when you're shooting through a windshield, it kind of deflects the track of the bullet. So you can't really be 100% sure where that bullet is going to go after it hits that windshield.
That's right.
Because the windshield is curved at some points and places. So, that wouldn't be a very, not that most snipers are moral or anything like that, but you definitely don't want to kill, a woman for whatever reason. When you're trying to assassinate the president, you don't want to kill his wife on accident or something crazy like that. So it would be an irresponsible shot. I'll say that. But I don't discount that there could have been shots from this truck. We need to go back and look at the Zapruder frame 408 or so and see what that thing looks like over there. I think I know what he's talking about. And anything's possible. There was that laundry truck parked beside the Dowtex building. As well, that could have been concealing a shooter. But again, with any of these theories, we lack the ultimate proof. And unless that truck said air conditioning on the side of it and it was green, what the fuck can you do?
What can you do?
But thank you, Wayne, for that.
Thank you very much, sir.
Yep. And our last one, Doug. This is our last one for the day.
Okay? All right.
And this comes from Kathleen Scott.
Well, hello, Miss Kathleen. Thank you for listening.
Hi. And this email contains a surprise for you, Doug, and a surprise for our listeners as well.
How you doing?
Hi, guys. We are thrilled to have you and your show, Quick Hits, JFK assassination news and analysis on Amazon Music. My name is Kate, and I'm with Amazon Music's podcast creator outreach team. Our team's goal is to help podcasters get the most of their experience on Amazon Music, including providing support and tips for helping grow their listenership. To that end, we are sending out resources and some possible promotional opportunities to podcasters on our service.
Coke Zero
I've linked them to you below. Here's to your continued success in 2022. Keep creating your amazing content and don't hesitate to reach out with any questions, and make sure you remind your listeners to say, Alexa, play Quick Hits, a JFK assassination news and notes podcast.
Alexa,
listen to your show.
Set Doug up with a Coke sponsorship.
So there you go, Doug. We are on another platform. I fucking signed us up for it, and it only took about 3 months for it to make it happen. But we are now on Amazon Music,
dude,
and can be listened to on any Alexa device in your house while you clean, Caroline. While you vacuum, you can holler at Alexa to play us and crank that shit. That's
right. And while you make sweet love, oh yeah, you can listen to Robin Doug. Come on.
Oh, of all the babies being born to this show.
Who would have, Jesus fucking Christ, man, who would have thought 8 years ago when we started that one day I would say that sentence in a podcast? You can make sweet love while listening to Robin Doug. I never in a million years thought I'd ever utter that sentence. Got to tell you.
Doug, you're making me want to run to you. Stop. Full circle, bitches.
Full fucking circle. That's right.
That's it for the emails, sir. Doug, if you could be so kind when you're done laughing to go ahead and plug your shit, sir.
I will plug my shit. Oh, wait, where's the music? There it is. Guys, you can find my show, The Dallas Action, presented by Wall Street Window, anywhere you find quality podcasts, including Amazon Music now. Up to date and current ongoing research, study, and analysis of the people, places, things, events, and ideas relating to the assassination of President JFK, like this show. Quick Hits. The Dallas Action is another quality podcast from Drop D Podcast Productions in the heart of Music Row, Music City, USA. Mr. Rob?
Yes, and you can find my show, The Lone Gunman Podcast, just about anywhere you listen to podcasts. You can find it on YouTube. If you do, make sure you subscribe, bastards, please. That'd be great. Thank you. And follow me on Twitter at The Lone Gunman 7 or on Facebook at The Lone Gunman Podcast Facebook page. All you gotta do is search for it. It'll pop right up. Hit follow, like it, or whatever the process is. I don't know. Whatever the young people are doing these days. And it comes to you from Loose Moose Productions from the annals of the Blue Ridge Mountains here in the ghettos of Virginia.
All right, Rob, is there anything else you wanted to say, like tune in again next time and all that stuff, maybe?
Yes. Folks, this is Rob Clark saying tune in again next time when we'll hear then FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover say,
You know what? I'm going to have a ding-dong.
Well, you go right ahead, Edgar, buddy. You knock yourself out. We are out.
Peace. You know what? I'm going to have a ding-dong.